a bit, but right now it's all about Transformation Thursday, and in the building we have Munga Sonje, is a poet and author, and the one and only John. You get. We just educate me. How do you pronounce his second name? Tickers. Yeah. Hey, see, help him with the mic, bro. Ama, you can just lift it up a bit. Yeah. So yeah, we can hang out with some really amazing guys over here. Now I've got a dope book. I've got an amazing book, and the title is Rhythmic Heartbeat, an anthology of poems from the coast. This is really good stuff, guys. And if you're an author, are you into poetry like some of us? Yes, and I suggest you prepare your questions. I'm a stream live and find us on that hashtag Spice Drive. You know, if you have any commentary, your reaction to this conversation that we're about to have, well, do that. Do the thing. All right, so on my left hand side, the one and only Munga. How you doing, bro?
I'm fine. What about you, sir?
I'm very well. I'm very well. Thanks for asking. How was your day, man? What stood up for you?
My day has been amazing.
Uh-huh.
It can never be well enough.
Yeah.
I'm hanging out with the best.
Exactly.
At the spice.
Good stuff.
It's about to get spicy.
Boss, and the lab, those bonga points will take you far.
I know.
It'll take you far.
Because that's a poet. Next thing you know, you guys dropping a poem over here.
I'm even giving the mic Kidogo.
Of course, he must drop live.
He
must spit.
No, but he can't drop the mic.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
We'll charge you. We'll charge you.
Yeah. And then, of course, Johnny, you're good, huh? How was your day, bro?
I've been well.
Mm-hmm.
My friend told me coming to spice, and I was like,
Yeah, exactly.
His mic, check his mic.
about to go down.
His mic should be all right. Oh, there you go. Yeah, so
okay.
so that's what you felt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about to go down.
And it's gonna go down, bro.
It's gonna go down.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's gonna go
So
down.
let me start with you, Johnny.
Yeah.
So what inspires you to do what you do? Yeah, no, guys, continue talking. Forget about Sam. So, John, what inspires you to do what you
what
do?
inspires my poetry? You know, we know that poetry is the voice of the people, and we want people to understand what is it that we are feeling in ourselves that we need people out here to understand. Okay, I'll say what inspired me to write poetry is because I went through kind of a depressive state.
Yeah.
And I knew people like me needed someone to voice out their issues. Depression, suicide, it's something people don't want to talk about. Issues on mental health.
Yeah.
So I knew I had to do something. And what made me feel okay was poetry. I had to go deep into poetry, speak what I'm feeling, and people out there resonated with me, and I was like, nah, I'm going to do this poetry. Maybe it will save someone there, maybe someone who thinks about suicide, maybe someone who is undergoing depression like I was, maybe people with childhood traumas. Let me speak up for them, and maybe they'll find voice in what I do.
So when you say that, when you talk about how you went through depression, so poetry, you mean it helped you channel that energy that you're going through?
Yeah, it helped me channel the negative energy. You know, we have seen things like the self-harm, and, you know, there's that urge to do self-harm. And once you get all these negative vibes that makes you want to take this blade and maybe draw some lines on your wrist, you'll just channel that energy. Let's say, let me just go write something. Let me pour out the emotion, maybe through the poetry. And trust you me, it works.
I can imagine.
It works.
Yeah. And what about you, Munga? What inspires you to, of course, write about poetry and, of course, just be a poet in general?
First of all, I'm inspired by where I come from.
Yeah.
As you can see from the front page, it is an anthology of poems from the coast.
Yeah.
Being a coastal kiddo, I wanted to remove this mindset on the minds of Kenyans. Like, when you meet a guy from coast, the first thing you notice or you tend to think is the guy doesn't know English.
Right.
That's why I stopped going the Shairi way and go to poetry.
That's what people say for real. I think guys from coast don't know.
Yeah.
What?
No, it's true. It's true.
Is that actually fact?
The same way Jangos don't know Swahili. That's a fact.
So, yes, sir. Okay, proceed.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I wanted to deconstruct that mindset first of all. Two, it's more or less the same thing. Whatever you're going through, you go through different situations in life, and most of the time you don't have someone to talk to. And in one of my poems, I've talked about a pen and paper being my best friend, where whatever I can't tell to somebody else, they'll listen.
Yeah.
And they won't shout back at me. Unlike someone else, you may tell another person what you're going through, and they'll be like, what are you saying?
I can imagine. And Munga, how has your journey evolved over time?
I'll say I've really grown as an author. From my first poem, till what I have written to date, I have seen myself growing, because the way I was handling matters from the start is not the same way. Because rather than me talking back at someone, harming somebody else or harming myself, let me just take my pen and paper and write down something, and at the end of it all, I'll be okay.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yes.
What about you, Johnny? How has your individual journey, evolved since you began writing, or rather being a poet?
So I'll start by saying, anytime you start writing, you just don't write good stuff at first. You'll have to make some mishaps. Maybe you write, you're like, nah, this is not something good. So I'd say I've really grown from the time I started writing, from my first book to my second book. I'd say I've really grown. I've really grown as an individual. And getting those positive feedbacks from your audience, it's really something that is so much encouraging.
Yeah.
And getting those reviews from a book, and you're like, oh, Tikas, you saved a life somewhere. It's something that makes you wish, no, I want to do more. I want to write more books. I want to help more people, stuff like that.
So do you actually care about reviews that much? What if you get a bad review?
It's disappointing.
Yeah.
It's like someone maybe comes and tells you, by there, and I hate by there your voice. You feel like, nah. It's so disappointing.
Yeah.
And you might get people giving you a 1-star review, and you're like, I did my best.
Yeah,
I did my best. So yeah, I care so much about reviews, and I'll care about reviews because they'll give you the encouragement and stuff. But I'd say I've gotten maybe 2 or 3 bad reviews.
Okay.
So it's a win for me. It's a win.
Yeah, of course. Amunga, with all the things that are going on in the country right now, especially you as a Gen Z, right?
Yes.
This is something that I usually tell my friends that if you notice the energy in the country, we're in a revolutionary state.
Yes.
I think the revolution is actually happening in the mind. Kenyans are questioning almost everything. We're trying to look at things differently, come up with different solutions. We want not just 2 narratives, not just a black and white narrative. We want different narratives as much as we can, especially when it comes to the political sphere.
True.
Right? When it comes to poetry, your poetry, for example, how important is it in today's Kenyan context?
Okay, so first of all, I feel privileged to be born in such time of age where it's like there's an awakening of some sort among the generations.
Correct.
Because it is among the times where across the generations we are speaking in one voice, and the mood in the country, everyone can feel it. And for me as a journalist, first of all, as a writer, I had to grasp the energy that is revolving around, and I happened to talk about politics. There are a few poems inside my book where I'm talking about politics, matters arising, how everything is going on, governance and everything, and how I feel the situation is what are the necessary changes that can be brought in, because I address issues like on drug abuse, which is from the coast. This is caused by lack of jobs, lack of better education, where you expect situations like you went to school and everything, you expect the road to be just straight.
Yeah.
You get a job. But what happens when you don't get a job?
I agree.
You see, those are the kind of questions. And you can't tell everyone to create a job because we don't all come from the same backgrounds. We don't get the same privilege.
Yeah.
So what happens to that person who can't do it for themselves? You see, you need a person who can speak for you.
Yeah.
So if we talk about these situations that are going through, and the youth need jobs, the youth need opportunities, the youth need to be seen, because I believe everyone can do something.
Yeah.
And if we're all empowered in some way to do that, we can become a greater nation.
I like that. And Johnny, let me ask you, what do you think what type of content does your audience really like? Subjects, for example, when it comes to your work. What do they enjoy to consume mostly from your engagement with them?
And maybe just to add on to that, what is your audience? That one that you really write to.
I'd say they are the depressed people.
Yo, I like your realness, bro.
No, but all Kenyans are depressed. So,
Exactly.
so don't shy back. Don't shy back.
Yeah. You guys, I remember even like
Most, if not all Kenyans are.
Yeah, see, they're talking about how Kenyans these days, we're not happy. And the happiness, you saw that happiness index, We're doing bad, man, bro.
Man,
So-
actually,
so-
Somali
so-
is happier than us.
You're kidding.
So basically, not to sidetrack, but yes, you're speaking to Kenyans.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'd say the depressed people.
Kenyans.
Why am I saying this? I was that person who started with love poems, that time I was in love. Yeah, I'd say that. But I once wrote this poem when I was so depressed, when I had crashes with my mom. So I kind of wrote this poem, and trust you me, the poem blew up. It gathered maybe, I don't know, it was like 1 million views on Instagram. Then I was like, yeah.
What?
Yeah, this is where I'm going.
Impressive.
This is where I'm going.
Yeah.
Plus, I wrote something I was going through then, and it was something to do with self-harm. I know it's self-harm is not something that everyone knows about, but as a young, they said that our generation, we all have our own self-diagnosed disorder. You say, oh, I have OCD, I have ADHD, I have depression. The next,
I'm bipolar.
I'm bipolar. So I was like, let me do something that will maybe voice out what people are really feeling. So I wrote this poem once, and it was like, I'll just recite it because it says, they ask me why I wear long sleeves. I said it's just fashion. They asked me why I hate waters. They asked me why I hate to swim. I said I hate waters. They asked me why I'm always in long sleeves in summer. I just said it's just cold. So it just showed, it's just a phrase of the whole poem. It just showed that people do self-harm, and self-harm is not about the wrist. People do harm themselves from the thighs. Anywhere, as long as you're feeling pain, because people like channeling their pain, maybe channel their pain through something else. And I'll say, my audience are the depressed people. I'll say the suicidal people, because people out here are really suicidal. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I
people
can
are
imagine.
suicidal.
I want you to bounce off that conversation, Munga.
Yes.
So he said Johnny likes talking about depression. That's really what interests his audience mostly. But from your book, I'm seeing over here, you say Rhythmic Heartbeat is a poetry collection book that covers different topics like hope, struggle, overcoming politics, religion, relationships, and many more. But in terms of subjects and themes, which ones do you think are underrepresented when it comes to poetry in Kenya?
First of all, I'd go with the politics, because the mood is, you may talk about something, critiquing the government, and at the end of it all, where does that leave you?
Abducted.
So that is something that people are really scared of which I think artists describe whatever is going through in the environment, right? So if these people were allowed a free space to talk about whatever is going on, I think we'll have a better place, because it's not every time that you get an artist talking about, we are tired of talking about sherehe each and every day. At the end of the day, we need money for sherehe, right? So where are we going to get this money when you don't have jobs? So my main point, or my main topic, is hope. Amidst whatever you're going through, have hope.
Yeah,
that
like
at
that.
the end of it all, things get better. Yes.
Sada?
I'm inspired.
You're inspired.
Yeah. When you find DJ Seda quiet, I'm inspired. I'm like, Kenya is in good hands.
Let me ask you something, Johnny.
The future of Kenya
You can tell, bro.
is in good hands.
Check him, man. That's
And
what
the future of literature.
There was nothing.
Yeah.
Actually, they start with literature, but they use literature to teach so many things. It's so broad. I'm inspired, guys.
Yeah. Let me ask you something, Johnny. What's your creative ritual like? Because I'm a creative, I believe. For me, I love hitting the gym and meditating and praying. What about you? Before you get into that creative element, what do you do?
I'd say I have to find something that provokes me.
Sounds dangerous, huh?
Okay, I'd say this. For poets or for any writer out there, you like to write what you're feeling at the moment. You just can't wake up and say, I kind of feel like I need to write about love, and you just wake up, pick a pen and write. So I'll find something that provokes me. There's that time nagongo na block, like you have nothing to write.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Then I'll be like, let me think of something.
Yeah.
I remember, by the way, na niliwachwa. And I'll start writing on it, what I felt then. But I'd say, for me, my creative time, I'd say, I'm kind of insomniac. So I'll stay maybe from 12 to 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And between that period,
That's your
trust me,
creative space.
I write more than 50 poems.
Now that's your
I'll
creative
write,
space.
that's my creative space. During the night, at that wee hour. I love it.
Kev, you know that there's a study that's been done.
Yeah. You can think clearly.
That's when everyone else is watching.
Yep.
Yes, and the
That's when Einstein and Johnny and Munga were doing their stuff.
Yeah.
So apparently there's something called the creative genius. Yeah.
Yes.
That's when he visits you. It visits you.
Okay. So
Sometimes you can lose it. Sometimes you can have it.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's an external thing that you need to be in a certain space in your certain element to actually get that inspiration.
Yeah, sure.
So on a light note, when DJs are doing their thing in the club,
Yeah.
they're those guys.
I can imagine. You're in your element.
They're in the element. They're artists doing their thing. Yeah.
Yo, Munga, let me ask you, bro.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on this story for Sheng, Kiswahili, vernacular, whatever form of language when it comes to your poetry, Kenyan poetry rather? Do you feel like it's necessary for poets to just sound however they want? They can stick to basic language like, English and Kiswahili, though, a lot of people can actually understand them. Or for you to actually bring out, your subject really well, your content well, it's better for you to just stick to what's comfortable for you.
So first of all, you should work with your audience. The most important thing as a creative is to know your audience, who is listening or who is reading whatever you're writing. So if your audience is the Sheng people, you won't write Sheng for a person who reads only English or understands. Or if your audience is for the English people, if you incorporate some sort of Sheng, they won't be able to understand. At the end of it all, language doesn't matter because we have listened to Amapiano. Amapiano has taken over in Kenya for like the last 3 years. We don't understand whatever they're saying, right? But the audience. So if you know your audience, what the language they use, and how you're going to talk to your audience and bring out whatever they are going through using the language. I don't think language is really something, but you should also stick to the language that you have used. And you can use different languages so that you can get to the different audiences that are there.
I like that.
Don't limit yourself to one language. Because as I said, coming from the coast, people expect me to write in Swahili.
Correct.
Right? But what happens to a person in Nairobi who doesn't understand fluent Swahili?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, Jeff?
Well, I have many of them.
Proceed.
So let me start with Tikas. Why poetry?
Why poetry? That's a good question.
Yes.
I'd say we have a lot of writings, I'd say that. But there's that clique about poetry. There's that thing that comes with poetry, like, I'd say in as much as people want maybe to channel their emotions through maybe writing, maybe other stuff apart from poetry, I'd say poetry has that clique that when you are reading it or when you are writing it, you have that emotional touch with it. I'd say poetry is more of like art music. You can't just wake up and say that I want to write music. You'll have to feel it first, then write it. Let me tell you, in as much as I know, I'd say most artists are poets. And most poets can be artists. Because once we are writing what we are feeling, right? So I'd say maybe, I don't know, but for me, poetry is the perfect thing for me because I know I'll be able to speak what I want from within. I'll have maybe to grab, I'll have someone who loves poetry and maybe they'll maybe, mtu tu atashikwa na the feeling and like, nah, I want to read this stuff. Okay, I'll tell you this. We all have red flags, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of sat down one day and thought, we all have red flags. Maybe people say red flags are maybe poor communication and stuff. Then I was like, why can't we poetize this red flag and maybe say, and maybe show it to in terms of how do people really view this red flag in terms of depression?
Wow.
So, okay, I know, I'll just read this poem I wrote once and it kind of performed well. So it says, that's why I'm answering my point.
Okay.
Yeah. So it says, my biggest red flag, I disappear. Not in the obvious ways, but in the subtle ones. Texts left unread, calls ignored like they never rang. I cancel plans without an excuse, fade into the background of group chats and missed events. I laugh less, talk even less than that. It's easier to ghost than explain how heavy my chest feels. I leave messages half typed, delete them before I hit them send, telling myself they don't care anyway. I let the days blur together, sleep in too late or not at all. I pretend I'm fine until I believe it, until I'm too deep to find my way back.
That's
Wow.
amazing.
Amazing.
So people will think, oh, so this is his red flag. And once someone reposts that, they'll be able to maybe teach someone else, maybe when I'm behaving like this, no, I'm depressed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Trevor,
Yes.
you belong to a generation, or rather, we belong to a generation that is so much tech savvy. If I want a poem about love, I'll not come to you. I'll just go to my phone. AI, and within matters of seconds, it has already generated me a poem with some perfect rhyme scheme and everything. Your thoughts on AI? Does it come, to enhance poetry, or does it come to dilute what has been there for years? What everybody did in before Maya Angelou, name all the poets that have been there.
Okay, so I believe AI is revolutionizing each industry because in whatever you do, you can't count out AI. Let me take, in writing of my book as an example, I was writing, right? And as I was transferring or as I was compiling my poems, I found myself using AI, reading out my poem so that it can write because it saves on energy and it saves on time, right? You can't outdo AI because it's swift and reliable, right?
Yeah.
But what artificial intelligence lacks is the human touch, right? You see, artificial intelligence, it requires a prompt. You have to feed into it the emotions that you want it to display. And like you, whatever you're feeling, whatever inspires you in that moment, that's what you write about.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a difference between an AI poet and a real poet
Yeah.
because that sense of emotions, when you're reading, you see the emotions, you get to interact more with a piece that is human written, unlike the AI.
And you can always tell when it's human.
True.
And that's even with art, not any kind of art, not just poetry.
Yeah.
But do you think poetry is actually respected in Kenya?
I wouldn't say so. Why? Because when I was writing this book, I had 300 poems. And then I went to the person doing the printing and he told me, according to the market right now, this book, you'll be kind of heartbroken because of the sales. Because let's take, the book is going for 1,000 and you have 300 poems. That means each poem is going for 3 bob.
That's actually true.
The math. So you tell me, is poetry being appreciated?
Of course not, man.
No, that leads to the question. Does poetry pay? Well, I like you are a physical publisher or a physical author. Tickers here, you've said that you're getting ratings, means that you publish somewhere online.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So in terms of physical publishing and online publishing, does it pay? Let me start with you.
Physical publishing pays. More so if you are a self-publisher. And not to throw shades to the publishers or anything.
Yeah.
But I feel like they collect most of the money, which tends to discourage a creative. Because you might be writing a book, but you see in the contract where it binds you to the publisher may be making the most money. And you're the creative behind the book.
Okay.
You see? So it reaches a point where the money that is coming in is not enough. So it tends to discourage you from going on.
Yeah.
Because you'll see the book is doing well, but you can't feel the chapa in your pockets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tickers, online
On
publishing.
my end, I'll say poetry pays. Poetry pays. I'd say that. Sorry. So, why I'm saying this? As you said, poetry in Kenya is not appreciated. That's why I did and it's not actually online, but if you want a physical copy, you can get one. It's just that it's so expensive to ship one.
Okay.
I used Amazon to publish my book.
Okay.
And compared to Kenya, international market is better. First, because of their currency, the economy, and maybe pricing a book at $12.99 in the US, they see like it's something cheap to them. So I'd say it pays because I wouldn't say per month, but you can't. I'm earning kinda 60 Gs per month, so it's a good way. It's a good
6
thing.
is wow. That's
It's a
This
good
is a good figure.
Yeah.
And let me- okay,
So
yeah.
poetry pays. So
Poetry pays.
But
Okay.
in as much as international publishing is perfect, I would also say the local publishing is also important because
Yeah.
I don't have a copy myself. So coming to kinda show, I can't even leave you a copy. So,
Actually,
yeah.
what we'll do, we'll put out this the name of your book and where guys can buy this book, because you guys have done a very good job. Me, I'm here for the support and the growth.
True.
Before we wrap up, because I can see we're running out of time, and if you're joining us just right now, one thing you need to know is we are hanging out with some really amazing guys, man, very talented. Munga Sonje and Tikas John, they're both poets and of course authors as well. Today it's all about Transformation Thursday, deconstructing poetry with purpose. So we'll let you know how you can actually grab yourself one of these books. My final question, of course, Jeff, I know you have one. If there was one poet out there, maybe in Kenya or worldwide, that you would love to work with, create a piece together, who would this be and why? Munga.
That's a hard one. Cool.
Wait, there are collabos in poetry.
Yeah.
You can work on a book with someone.
Okay.
Where you can incorporate both pieces. They are amazing people.
Even in Kenya, I'm sure there are.
Yeah. Okay.
You know that guy who's always in jobs? He's my boy. You know, I interviewed him over here. What's his name? The guy who's always with dreads, man. He's in Netherlands actually right now. He's always dropping bars about politics. Damn, I even have his number, man. Like he's very controversial, and he's always in matatus just telling Kenyans about, how the government is so.
Yeah. Remember the guy?
Do you know that
Remember
guy?
The guy? Yeah.
Damn. Let me get his name in. Anyway, I'll tell you.
He found his groove last year
Yes,
around
he's
the
from Nakuru.
political scene.
Yes, he's from Nakuru.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll find his name now. So I was just recognizing some of the guys that I know. Yeah. What about you? Who would you want to work with? Hopefully one day in the near future.
First of all, I'm a lover of music. I listen to music each and every time. I'm also rap music. And if you listen to whatever I do, you'll see some form of music type, because I rhyme a lot. And I listen to Kenyan rappers more so. I listen to the like of King Kaka, Nyashinsky, Ska. Those are people who have bars. And I love punches, because you can speak whatever you have, but it's supposed to be punchy, and it touches to your audience, because they'll resonate. And because what sets you apart from the normal musician is that you have the rhythmic effect, which is important in poetry. Yes. So
okay. Yeah. That's a very general answer. What about you, Johnny? John?
I have two, an international one and one from Kenya.
Yeah.
But this one from Kenya is an artist. And
Okay.
I'd love her maybe to sing my poems. Maybe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Who's this?
It's Nikita Kering.
Jeez.
Of course.
Yeah.
It
You
had.
just had to say Nikita.
It's Nikita.
You just had to, bro. It's all good, man.
It's Nikita.
Yeah.
I had this one. I wrote. I already have the lyrics actually.
Yeah.
So I would really love to work with Nikita.
Yeah.
And for my international poet, I don't know if you know her. She's Cory James. She has
Of course. She does
Cory
R&B,
James.
yeah. I have her music over here.
Cory James.
Yeah.
So I would really love to work with those two.
Yeah.
And more so Nikita Kering.
Hey, you sound like
If she's listening to this,
You've
I'd
met
love
her
to work with her.
You've met her before.
No.
I've met her.
You've met
Yeah.
her.
Now you see that's how connections come.
Jeff, what's your final question?
Yeah,
Because I see
so
we're running out of time.
Let me ask you guys, before you tell us where maybe we'll find your work, to each and every one of you.
Yeah.
Do you consider yourself a poet who happens to be young, or a young person who happens to be a poet?
Hey, my man.
That is poetry. It's the studio, bro. So, I think depending on the situation or from the perspective I'm looking at it, I happen to be a poet who is young, and I happen to be a young person who is a poet, because a poet, you just find yourself along the way that you happen to know how to write, and also you know how to write poetry, right?
Yeah.
And discovering that I am a poet at this age is what works for me. So you see, I am a poet, right? And
Yeah.
I'm also a poet who is young.
Yeah.
So I discovered my art when I'm still a young.
Yeah. And I like that, because you know what they say, fortune favors the young. So let me tell you, even if Kenyans don't really buy poetry, just because you're this talented, believe you me, eventually it's going to work out for you guys. So thank you so much for coming through. Where can Kenyans find your work? John?
You can follow me on Instagram at Tikas Poetry, Take us poetry on all social media platforms.
Yeah, good stuff. What about you, Munga?
So you can find my work on all social platforms. I have a specific page for Rhythmic Heart. It is there on the bio. You can hit me up for copies. And I'm also working with the local libraries so that I can be able to dispatch the copies. And soonest, all the copies will hit all the libraries in Kenya.
Amazing. I believe that too. Thank you guys for coming through.
Okay, to answer on just
Oh yeah, he
question,
never answered.
Okay.
I'll say I'm an old soul trapped in a young poet.
Time traveler. Thank you so much, man. Once again, guys, that is Munga Sonje. He's a poet and author. And of course, Tikas John as well, as he's also a poet and author. And it's been Transformation Thursday. It's all about deconstructing poetry with purpose. Right now,